Today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities Incorporated, expert engineers, designers, and manufacturers of steel training towers, burn rooms, and mobile units that are all made in the USA. Welcome back to 3-Point Firefighter. Today, my guest is Kaleb Mauzy. God darn it, I did it wrong already, didn't I? Mauzy. There it is, Kaleb Mauzy. So Kaleb joined the fire service in 2000. He started his career with the U.S. Forest Service in Sierra Vista Ranger District, where he worked as a wildland firefighter. After about 5 years with the Forest Service, he transitioned into structural firefighting with the Firefighter District located in Sierra Vista, Arizona. That's where I met him. Upon getting hired with Firefighter, he built out their wildland program. He served as their wildland team coordinator until he was promoted to the position of battalion chief. Now, as battalion chief, he's only responsible for the district special operations and the employee hiring, the part-time employee program and part-time employee training. But his special operations include stuff like TRT, Wildland, Hazmat, SWAT medics, does a little bit of everything. I met Chief Mauzy. Did I get it right?
There you go.
In Sierra Vista. Immediately, I was impressed with this guy. Had to get him on the podcast, brother. Thank you for being on the podcast.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
So I like to start off with, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you fit in with your department.
So native to Sierra Vista, been here since I think we moved here when I was like 6 months old. Grew up here, always real active in the community as a child, and growing up, just decided to stay here. Got into the fire service right after high school, didn't know what to do. So I figured I'd try it out. Just love the calling, and now I'm with the Firefighter District. I'm a battalion chief, been doing that for a couple of years. A whole new challenge for me. I'm excited. It's making me grow. A lot of pressure to better myself for the organization. And I just recently took over training. I was just doing the special ops and like the part-time EMT or EMS program. Mm-hmm. And then our training chief is retiring in 14 days. Oh, wow. So about 6 months ago, we started the transition. I took over training just in case I needed a little bit of help in between. Just been running with that for the last 6 months, and really kind of got me re-energized into training. And just that's where I met you guys. Lucky enough to have you and Gilbert come out and teach our class. And so just looking forward to all the future and doing training with the organization.
I tell you what, I've told you this many times. I love Arizona. Just love that place. Never expected to like it. Never disliked it. Just, I guess I'd never been there. Fell in love with that place. So we're going to Sierra Vista. Tell us the location. Where is Sierra Vista located in Arizona, for those who don't know?
So the easiest way, there's always like 3 ways to describe it. Either people know where Tucson is, mm-hmm. Tombstone, because they've all seen the cowboy movies, or Mexico. Right. So we're kind of in between the 3 of those. We're an hour and a half south of Tucson. We're about 30 minutes to the west of Tombstone. And then we're about, as the crow flies, a couple miles north of Mexico.
Right. And later on, I'll talk about Montezuma's Pass, where you guys setting us up to check things out. So wildland firefighting, tell me about what that's like in Arizona. I didn't see a ton of trees. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So in Arizona, we have the whole spectrum. Because up northern Arizona, Prescott, Flagstaff, you get the big, large timber. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, Arizona's the desert. We have a lot of real, what they call light, flashy fuels. Mm-hmm. It's real similar to Southern California. It's almost the exact same fuel type. Just tons of grass fires, which, they go out pretty quick, but they also burn really quick. And the problem with our mountains, I'm pointing, not like you can see them. They're right there.
To hit, for those who are just listening to the podcast, to the right, he's pointing to a bunch of mountains.
Yeah. So the problem with our area is we can get large fires every year because we'll have a large fire come through, but a lot of our vegetation that burns is grass and the understory, manzanita, like desert broom, things like that. Mm-hmm. So we can get large fires in the same exact area where in, your northern states with the trees, typically when you have a fire there, you won't get another fire in that same area for years. So it's, our fire season here never ends. We pretty much do wildland fire all year round, whether it's here or somewhere else.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we've had 2 pretty good sized brush fires just recently. Had a couple 1,000-acre one up on the military base about 3 weeks ago.
And how do you pronounce that? And that's another thing I can't pronounce.
Fort Huachuca.
Fort Huachuca.
Yeah,
but it doesn't. It's not spelled at all like that, is it?
No, it's with an H. The spelling's really off. It's Huachuca.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
It's actually a pretty historic base. I think that came around in like 1877, and wow. It was to protect the San Pedro Valley and what's the Santa Cruz Valley from I believe the Apache Raiders, the Indian Apaches. And ever since then, it's been a little bit of outpost, and it's grown and gone through a bunch of changes. So
it's kind of a military town. Sierra Vista is a military town. Yeah,
I would venture to say without the military, their base, there wouldn't be much of a Sierra Vista.
My only gripe about Sierra Vista is I could only find one microbrewery. It was good.
So, you're gonna be so mad at me, but one of the battalion chiefs from Sierra Vista Fire actually makes amazing beer, and yeah, you're gonna have to come back now.
Come on! Oh, in a heartbeat.
I forgot.
In a heartbeat.
That guy, he makes some of the best. I'm not a huge beer drinker, but he made me some caramel something beer, and oh my goodness, I was drinking it like crazy.
Oh man,
he has some of the best beer I've ever tasted. So
you had one brewery, I think. Yeah, next time.
The Bone Dry probably is the one you went.
Yes, that's where we went to. It looked like it was in a strip mall, so I wasn't real impressed. But once we got in, it was really, really nice. Yeah. And then they had really good beer. They had a blonde ale. It's called Popeye Blonde Ale. Oh my goodness! And their pizza, I was really surprised at how good their pizza was.
Yep. Really, really like good. If you come back anywhere near here, I'll owe you a growler full of some of Don Foster's famous beer.
At least you owe me one. At least after all that. So when we got there that first night, of course, I've said this before, a good host for our class really makes or breaks the class, right? You were an excellent host, but me and Gilbert got there later than we planned because my flight, the very morning I was flying out, they pushed it back a couple hours. So we tried to get there a day before the class so we could set up and check everything out. And we got there, and I remember it was no lights. It was almost pitch black driving these roads, and then the road quit being a road and it became a lot of like a trail. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I made the wrong turn. And he's like, no, I'm looking right at it. It's on our Google Maps, it's right here. And then also we pull up and then we see the firehouse. It was like almost pitch black except for the lights of the firehouse. That was a little creepy for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah. The another thing is too, so we were doing our hazards for the live fire, and almost always you say, okay, well, there's going to be slip, trip, and fall hazards because of fire hose and all that. And I heard somebody say, oh, and don't forget the snakes. I think there's snakes in there.
Yeah,
that's the first time I've heard that. Okay, well, I'm kind of afraid to ask, what kind of snakes do you usually get around there?
So don't quote me on it, but I want to say Arizona has the highest number of venomous snakes in the nation. So we have literally everything you could think of. Every type of rattlesnake, the Mojave, diamondback, blacktail. There's literally every venomous snake you can think of we can find in our area. So,
Sierra Vista was the greatest last Arizona class I can remember.
Yeah, it's true. It's and then our burn room is next to that open field, as you remember, and the mice like to come get shelter in there, which obviously the snakes like to follow the mice. So it's actually a pretty common hazard.
Oh my goodness. I was in Saudi Arabia for a while, and in the mornings, all the, what do you call it? The scorpions would lay flat on the bays in the mornings, that lay all flat. And so you'd wake up and you walk across, and then if it wasn't that, it was those camel spiders over there. And I thought, yeah, that's it. No more for me. So maybe I'll never go back to Arizona. Who knows? Or maybe I'll just get like really tall boots. I'll feel better.
There you go. We'll get you some snake chaps.
See, that's all I need. Yeah, that's all. I think Gilbert has some chaps, but I don't think they're snake chaps, but that's a whole nother story. So your transition from wildland firefighting. So, and tell me if I'm wrong, in my opinion, from the people I've talked to, wildland firefighting is very physically taxing. It's very, it's just a long, arduous process. Sometimes you have water, sometimes you don't. It's just kind of the top shelf firefighter has been the wildland firefighter. You transitioned from that into structural firefighting. How big a transition was that?
So first off, I got to give credit where credit's due. In the wildland arena, I spent a lot of my time on an engine. So we it's hard work regardless, but those type 1 hotshot crews, they put us to shame. Those guys are amazing. So it is hard work. Those guys are at the tip of the spear, if you would. Amazing to work with. I did have some opportunities to do some hand crews, that's where all the hiking and line digging and the real work, at least on the engine, you can take a break every once in a while, sit down. Those guys, kudos to them. But really for me, the transition was more, I was looking at starting a family, and in the wildland arena, I was just gone all summer, which, it's great for overtime and seeing the country, but it's kind of tough to have a family when you're never home. So the transition was pretty easy for me because it's something I wanted to do. And our fire chief at the time was really trying to build up the wildland program. So we worked out at the same gym, the Cochise Racket Club here. And he kept bugging me. Hey, come to Fry. And I think I was 23 at the time. I'm like, you don't really think through things a lot at the time. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So, man, it was a big change of pace. With the federal government, there's a lot of pros and cons, but it's completely different than state and local government. Everything's just different. So if anything, it was the finance / retirement. Those things were the biggest changes for me. Things at that age that I wasn't even considering.
So was it better when you moved to Fry, or would you just leave it? Yeah. So you left the good stuff behind, didn't you?
So, part of being gone 24/7 is huge paychecks, right?
Right.
Well, when you go to just a normal schedule, and this was quite some time ago. I got to give credit to our organization. We've caught up. We're very consistent with pay now, but at the time, I was very shocked when I saw my first paycheck moving over to the structure side. I was like, oh, what did I do? Well, you don't pay in retirement on the federal side. You pay like a percent.
Right.
So whereas, here, our public safety retirement, you have to actually contribute as well. So there are just a lot of things that as a 23-year-old, I didn't think about. I was just like, I'll try something new. So and I'm happy I did. No regrets. Love it. It's awesome. And when I moved over, I still got to do wildland during the summers, and built an amazing, well, in my eyes, it's an amazing wildland program. And we travel North Carolina, Montana, Idaho, Oregon. We go to California multiple times every year. So I still get a little bit of that wildland arena, but I get to do the structure, EMS, all those things. And I get to be home a lot, which is the biggest part.
I didn't realize that. So I thought you were just in that area, but you travel all around the country, wherever you're needed. And Fry doesn't fit the bill for that. The federal government does, right?
Yeah. So we're like a subcontractor. And the easiest way to explain it is Arizona gets called from these other states with an emergency need. And then they call us and then send us to wherever the need's at. And then we bill the state of Arizona, and then they bill whichever state or fire that requested us. So that way, because the big thing is, as you know, our taxpayers pay for us to protect them here in our community. So this is a way to offset that cost where the people that need the work are actually able to help support the equipment and personnel. So it's not all coming out of our taxpayers' funding.
That's good. Is there a lot of, I guess, a lot of mandated overtime for stuff like that, or?
It's so nothing's ever mandated. It's all volunteer based. If we didn't have guys that were interested in going away from home for, most assignments now are upwards of 18, 21 days. We had one crew out for over a month straight, and they volunteered to do it. The guys, like I said, we have fire season 24/7 here. Mm-hmm. So going out and working these larger incidents and it's basically training. You're able to go help a community in need. Meanwhile, you're making some non-tax revenue for the organization, and our guys are getting a ton of training that's just invaluable back home.
Oh, wow.
So,
and then you said also you do hazmat?
Yeah, we have our own district hazmat team, but our in-district exposure is very limited. The county for Cochise, we have a ammonium nitrate plant. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, which everyone knows what that does.
Yeah.
And then we have some railways and things like that. So as a county, it's an issue. So rather than try to just bolster our own team, we support the county team. So we have a handful of our guys that are hazmat techs. Mm-hmm. And then we go and train with the county. And then when there's an incident, we pull from all the agencies in the county. That way we can kind of not just tax one entity. So. Oh,
yeah. I think in my department, we do something very similar as far as we have 3 small communities right together. We work pretty well together and stuff like that, which one of the things I noticed, not Caleb, you're Caleb, Gilbert noticed on our last day there that when we first got there and the class had started, all these guys, I guess, hadn't seen each other for a while, or hugging and high-fiving and everything. I mean, the vibe from the first 2 or 3 minutes was amazing. We're like, God, these guys really get along. So we had Brisbee, Fry, Sierra Vista, and Whetstone. Is that right?
And Palominas.
And Palominas.
Yep.
So all these different departments. And where?
Fort Huachuca.
Yeah, Fort Huachuca. I forget that guy's name, but I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah. Yep. Everybody was getting along so well, and they worked like they were in one department, to be honest with you. And I was really impressed with that. Have you guys always got along that well, or do you have to get along that well since you're that close?
So, historically, there's been some infighting, if you would. But for the most part, even though it's like a family, I guess that's how I describe it. How you still fight, but in the time of need, that all that goes aside. Yeah, I would say it's exactly like that. It's getting even better now. We're doing a lot of regional approaches to everything, but we have our little things. We bicker and we give each other a hard time, but ultimately, when there's a call or something, it's like none of that. We're all one team, one department thing. It's actually pretty amazing to see how well we work together. Yeah, it is. It's not blowing smoke or nothing. It's just me and Gilbert both commented on that. We're like, wow, these guys get along they work really, really well together. And it's not like I haven't seen that in the past, but it's just, sometimes you just see that group that just, like I said, if it wasn't for the t-shirts, I would have thought you were all Fire Department, every last one of you. As you're talking about it, I think the thing is, we're all smaller agencies. Mm-hmm. So I think we know very well, it's our reality that we can't handle all of our calls and all of our emergencies by ourselves. And then everyone has that same mindset. So we just feel very blessed to have those partners, because there's days that we have in between Service and Fry, we have ambulances coming from Bisbee, Whetstone, tenders from we would need a giant fire department to be able to handle all of our own calls. So we really rely on our mutual aid and automatic aid partners. So I think that's probably why we get along so well, is we know we need each other no matter what. Can't get away from it, right? Yeah. And you're doing something which I think is super cool. You get all these people from the different departments taking this 1403 class, and then you're doing burns starting tomorrow, I assume, with everybody that was in that class. Yeah.
to reinforce that the prior class.
Correct. We're the ones for tomorrow are just going to be Sierra Vista and Fry, just because of not enough hours in one day to get everyone through. And then we're going to get the some of the other agencies, Palominas, Whetstone, Bisbee. Then they're going to come through and work as a team. Well, with us, obviously, but so that because their agencies are just a little bit smaller. So it's kind of hard, like we talked about in class, to 1403 is pretty specific on the support roles you need to keep the guys safe. And like we were talking, no agency can do some of that stuff on their own. So we're going to bring them all together to help each other and be able to train their guys. So yeah, that's coming up just to reinforce that training that you guys put on for us.
I think that's great. That's a good investment in your people. I'm not saying the other people that have had the class, just because they didn't roll right into live fire didn't really benefit from it, but the people that are going straight into practicing, what they learned 2 weeks ago, I think that's a great idea. Now, were you the only instructor in IC instructor in charge before that class?
The only one with the ISFSI certification currently, yes.
So this is going to lighten your load just a little bit.
Yeah, don't tell anyone, but I'm really excited about that portion of it.
See, now you can go inside and be like interior safety or be on the line.
Oh, so the burn plan that I just sent out for these coming up, I may have put myself in the interior safety role as much as possible.
There you go.
Well, because you guys told us about that soundboard, and I'm super jealous because in the class I stayed out, and so I'm really excited to go, kind of experiment with that soundboard and making some new fuel packages.
Yeah. That's the thing, is learning. Before I took the class, I didn't, I thought a fuel package was a fuel package. You threw straw, you threw pallets, and that was it. Yeah. It's just not the case. It just depends on what you're trying to teach. Now, I've yet to use that sound. I've only used a soundboard once at your place. I don't have anything on the agenda anytime soon, but I want to get some and do it like Gilbert had said, line them and see how that works. I do know this from the acquired structures we've been doing: double drywall is not a good idea. It's just not. It's just a waste of time, a waste of effort. But so hopefully you'll take that chapter 5 class, acquired structure. That's supposed to be a good one. Sure. A different animal. If you burn in a can and you burn in a real house, man, 2 different animals. And because a can doesn't really have a whole lot of personality, but a house does. Yes. And you can make the same burns in the same way, in the same rooms, in a house, and they'll all act different, but that's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm excited to look into it. So there was a time that I didn't think I'd ever, teaching the class, almost every incident is in an acquired structure that we talk about. And so it scared me. Yes. I was like, oh, I'm never doing that. Nope. Yep. Nope. And the more I get comfortable with it, and then after talking with you, it's only an issue if you don't take every step and plan and make it safe. I feel like we could do it in a very safe manner and get some real quality training out of it. So I'm looking forward to pursuing that a little bit. So
I don't think I would have done it. I've turned it down more times than not. I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for this training officer that was wanting some help with 1403, and he was doing a bunch of acquired structure, and a lot of acquired structures. We did it for like 2 straight weeks, and he got comfortable. I got comfortable, and I realized that it's the same main ingredient for both acquired structure and fixed facility is just safe. You just, that's your biggest ingredient, man. As long as you're not being stupid, which always happens at the end of the day. It seems like people are like, nobody's gotten hurt. So they're like, hey, let's make this fuel package a little bit bigger, or let's stay in a little bit longer. Or, I don't want to rotate out of this position. I'm good. So I think that's when a lot of these mistakes happen and get people hurt, and as battalion chief training, that falls on you. Yeah. And my big thing is, I always say nobody gets hurt in training. That just, there's no reason. If you've got an injury, I've got guys might have a bad shoulder, like I got a bad shoulder or a bad, knee, whatever it is. And we do certain training. I try to tell them, hey, don't get hurt in training. Do the best you can. Save that for when you're pulling a baby out of a 2nd-story window, not in training. But most people, firemen, they're just go. They don't care. Go till they get hurt. So one of the things I really loved about Arizona is we got to do two things extra, and one of them was Montezuma's Pass. Am I saying it right? It was Montezuma's Pass. Right?
Yep.
So if you guys look up, look at Google and look at Sierra Vista and Montezuma's Pass and everything, it's just some mountains that were about 30. Well, they weren't 30 minutes away. It was 30 minutes up and, the switchbacks and everything. But you get to the top and it is an unbelievable view. I've got a couple pictures I'll post when this comes out. So Chief Mauzy said, hey, listen, you get up there, you can see the wall. And I'm like, okay, I want to see this, So I get up there and I'm looking, can't see it, thinking you're messing with me, screwing with me. I'm like, there's no wall here. So I turn around, look the other direction, and you could see the wall just go on forever. So, you could see right into Mexico. It was really, really neat. But what I thought was cool, the next day I come and talk to you, and you guys, you were telling me about runs and things that happen at the wall that you guys have to deal with. Now, when I was there, you had a guy that was caught upside down on the American side, right?
Yes.
With his leg trapped.
Yeah, his knee was trapped in the wall.
Okay. So what are some of the unique things that you have to do as a firefighter that deals with the wall?
So the wall in our area is kind of relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
And so just off the new one, we've had to have some training meetings with Border Patrol and other agencies on just pre-planning, what happens when someone gets stuck, what happens, how are we going to get them out, how are we going to get resources out there. But to be honest, and it's super, I feel horrible even talking about it, but a lot of people fall off it and they're not actually getting stuck, and it's creating some traumatic injuries.
Now, it's what, 30 feet you said, or 30 or 40 feet?
Yeah, it's about 30 feet. So there's not a lot of, it's built to not be able to climb over.
Uh-huh.
So with that being said, there's not a lot of handholds or anything. And so it's really dangerous. And we've had quite a few people fall, and which results in, some head injuries, some traumatic injuries. And from the closest hospitals, typically from there, a good guess would be about 45 minutes, maybe.
By ambulance, really?
Yeah, by ambulance.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, that the roads aren't exactly perfect out there, and they're pretty far out. So depending on where we're at, the closest hospital could actually be over an hour and a half or more by ambulance.
Oh, geez.
So we definitely are lucky to have some air ambulances in the area that we can call on in times like that. So, but yeah, that's the biggest. Just some traumatic injuries. We did, like you said, we had the guy with his knee stuck, and luckily that one worked out really well. So he walked away from it basically. And then, but to be honest, the more of the calls are in the mountains. That's our TRT team is really busy. Mm-hmm. We run a lot of calls with the Cochise County Search and Rescue team. So as you know, in Arizona, the weather is amazing during the day. Mm-hmm. Even December, it'll be 90 degrees midday, but at night it drops to freezing. So there's that false sense of security, and some people get, up in the mountains with some exposure injuries, hypothermia, things like that. So that's where a majority of our calls are through the mountain ranges with the people traveling in from the Mexico side.
I thought that was kind of interesting what you were telling me too. And again, this is not anything political. It's just stuff that you've experienced. But you said when President Trump was president, you didn't have that many people, that many runs. I think you said something to the effect of like 1 or 2 a year. And then now you're getting like 1 to 2 a month.
So, and yeah, like you said, one of my biggest goals in my career is to not get political, and because I want to provide amazing service to everyone. We all do.
Amen. Amen.
Just factually speaking, during his presidency, we did run very, very few missions, TRT missions, or any type of rescue missions with foreign travelers. It almost like clockwork, with the change of administration, it became for a while, we would do a couple a week. So
Wow.
it was very, very noticeable on our end, and which is unfortunate because I'm sure you're the same way. I hate seeing people hurt or in distress. So we've been busy. We train really hard for it though. Our guys are amazing. We're kind of pretty well known in Arizona for our TRT instructors. Mm-hmm. Shout out Dennis Farrell, Kurt Denny, Mike Keene. We have some amazing guys that are well known, and they teach all around the state and areas, and they bring that right there to our district. So they're able to train our guys, so we can provide some pretty high quality service to these hurt and trapped individuals. But it's still as fun as it is to rappel and pick off and do high lines, and it ultimately we're doing it. Training's cool, but on these missions, it's kind of an unfortunate situation.
So you were also telling, now went back up, Dennis, is that the one with the little soul patch?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. A big fan of his already.
Yeah. He's a character.
He was super nice. Yeah. That's what he told me. He's from Jersey. And I was like, oh, okay. And so everybody there at Fry that I got in contact with there, just either walking from the bathroom to the classroom or the classroom outside to the burn building, the ones that weren't in the class were talking to me. They were very friendly, super nice. I couldn't believe how nice everybody was, because sometimes we go to places and I understand this, where some of the people in the firehouse that aren't in the class kind of see us as kind of a outsider. And they know they're going to have to clean up the room when we're gone, and they're going to have to clean the bathrooms extra good. And I get that. I got no problem with that. But that wasn't Fry Fire. Fry Fire, these guys were coming up and just chatting me up, and couldn't be nicer. But I remember Dennis for a couple of reasons. One, when you guys were telling me to go up to Montezuma's Pass, he wrote, and I got it somewhere in my office here, he wrote on a napkin his name and his phone number. He said, so if you get up there and anything happens, you run off the road or fall off a mountain, he goes, you call me and I'll come get you. And me and Gilbert were like, that's the nicest guy in the world. Then the last day, he's like, he comes up to me, and because Sierra Vista had washed my gear, and I guess I was going, he goes, do you guys need anything? Maybe it was the second day, it's day 2. He goes, you guys need anything washed? And I said, no. I said, they're doing our gear. Thank you. He goes, no. Personal stuff. I know it's hard to be in another town. And I mean, he just was so fucking nice. And I was like, this guy just made a great impression on me, as well as everybody there at Fry Fire. I swear, it's like they knew me. They just come and start talking to me and talking to Gilbert. And I was like, this is about the friendliest place. One of the most friendliest places I've ever taught at. Really loved it. Great guys.
I hope he doesn't listen to this, because he's going to be unbearable for a while.
Well, hey, we'll edit this out. We'll chop it.
He is, though. And you know what's cool about Dennis and a lot of our guys? They just network. In wildland fires, you can go talk to Dennis, and he knows medical unit leaders and division people from all over the country. Like we talked about in the fire service, it's all about, there shouldn't be any new ideas. We should be gathering information from each other, and we got a lot of good guys that do that. And he's one of the better ones at pulling all that information in for us. So
no, he was fantastic. All the guys I talked to were fantastic. But he made a real big impression on me and Gilbert. I want to go back to the wall again, because you'd mentioned a couple things about, so when I was in Sierra Vista, and you guys can probably Google this, I think it's called Aerostat. It's a blimp that flies above Sierra Vista from Fort Huachuca. I'll never remember that. So it's always up in the air, and you can see it. I mean, it's pretty big, obviously. And you told me that it was for monitoring the wall, basically. But it's
for the most part.
Yeah, not so much people trying to get over the wall as individuals, but maybe like drones and ultra. So tell me some of the other ways that in your area that they try to get what they want from one side to the other.
So real quick, on the aerostat, something cool about that is we can tell the weather by that thing. If it's not up, even if it's clear outside, it means the weather is going to get bad. So, so they bring it down. It's on a winch system. And so you can kind of look, if you see the blimp, the weather's going to be good. If they bring it down, weather's going to change. So that's kind of a fun little tip. Yeah, so they have, we've seen all kinds of things from catapults,
Mhm.
like what do they call, like those trebuchets?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah, I mean, when the wall was lower, they had some amazing like ramp devices just to drive straight over it.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, we've seen some pretty interesting, creative things. And the reason we end up seeing all these is because we're not involved in like the border protection, but we have our CON's like 200 and some square miles.
Mhm.
We cover ambulance from like Bisbee, the river to, man, way over to Nogales. But so when a lot of these result in like some injuries or maybe some chases and things, and so we end up getting to come out a lot and pick their brains. And yeah, they've had small drones, large drones. There was a time where ultralights were really big.
Mhm.
The little like hang glider with the
Motor
small
on it.
motor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were big for a while. I haven't heard a lot between the aerostat and the Border Patrol has their own, like larger drones like Predators and things like the military uses.
Mhm.
So I think that's kind of limited that portion of the illegal drug crossing.
Mhm.
So it's kind of by air seems to have kind of gone away in our area, or they're so creative that we don't even hear about it. So
Don't know it yet, right?
yeah, either one of those. So,
Now, I think it was you, maybe somebody else told me that they would cut part of the fence
yeah,
and then replace it and then paint it to make it look like it's all like it hadn't been touched.
yeah, that's and I haven't seen that myself, but that's some of our guys have talked about it. And we do, we're until recently I was a SWAT paramedic as well, but we still have a lot of guys that are on the SWAT team with the sheriff's office, and then they have teams that do mountain patrols and things. And so just through talking, we've been told that they'll cut the fence, and they actually have paint that looks rusted.
Mhm.
So they're able to cut it, put it through, and then repaint it and weld it, just weld it back together like it never happened. So
Golly. Wow.
uh,
Now, what was before the wall was built? What was the border wall looking like prior to it?
so when I first started with the Forest Service, there was actually a cattle guard that we could drive into Mexico. The border fence was a 7-strand, like ranch style barbed wire fence. The only reason you knew it wasn't a normal rancher, because a lot of ranchers lease land from the Forest Service out by Montezuma's Pass and whatnot. And
Mhm.
you just knew it was the border fence because it was just a little bit higher. Other than that, you couldn't tell the difference between a cattle fence and a border fence.
Really?
Yeah. And then over the years, they transitioned to what they called a vehicle barrier. And it was just 2 pieces of steel in like an X formation,
Mhm.
and then 1 piece of steel on top of it, which it was about waist high, super easy that's when they would just drive over it with like some little ramps and stuff. So it was called the vehicle barrier, but it didn't do anything.
It just slowed them down just a little bit.
Yeah, they at least got rid of the cattle guard. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
we used to have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
We used to have, when I was with the Forest Service, we'd have fire trucks from other like departments, like North Carolina, Idaho, wherever. They would come down here in our fire season to help us, like we go other places.
Mhm.
And that was obviously, that was the big thing. Everyone wanted to go take a picture. They would, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, so they may have driven into Mexico to take a quick picture of their truck and their crew on the other side, because they have little monuments every once in a while that show that you're on the other side of the border.
Uh-huh.
So that was a big thing, a big tourist attraction for the guys coming to help us with our wildland season.
But again, we can't confirm that ever happened.
Yeah, that was I wasn't with the fire service, but back then.
Now, yeah, you heard it from a guy that heard it from a guy that heard from a guy that read it in a comic book.
Yep.
Gotcha. I got you there, brother. I think it's neat. I love talking to firefighters that do things that are just completely different. Like how many people really have to deal with injuries from a 30-foot border wall on another country? I just think that's amazing. And And then when I'm in Washington and Oregon, I ask about Bigfoot. They get mad about that. First, they say, first off, it's Sasquatch. Well, okay. Sorry, I guess it's Sasquatch. But I think that's really, really interesting. Brother, I appreciate your time on the show. Made a big impression on me when I first met you. I wish nothing but good things for you, and I really, really appreciate your time.
Hey, I appreciate it. It was good talking with you.
Good talking to you, man. Have a good one.
You too.
Today's podcast was sponsored by Fire Facilities, designers and manufacturers of realistic, built-to-last training structures and mobile units for 30 years. Make training count. Visit firefacilities.com for more information.